All right. Um, Good afternoon, everybody. It's a lovely Friday afternoon. I hope you guys are all comfortable. This is going to be a short and sharp webinar presentation. My name's Pratik. I'm the head of sales at Energy Renaissance. And today's webinar is about unlocking energy savings with battery solutions. Thanks to our special guest, Orkestra. They're going to help us understand how we can enhance customer outcomes by using their software and modeling our batteries and showing some pretty cool things that I think are really important when it comes to proposing and pitching batteries to customers all across Australia. I'm just going to give it a few more seconds while I see some people joining in, and then I'm going to kick it off. But yeah, just as a starting point, this webinar will be recorded, and we will be sharing the recording of the whole webinar at a later point next week. So don't worry about taking notes. They'll all be captured here. And at the end, we'll compile all the questions that come through in the chat function, the Q&A function, and we will put together some comprehensive answers from both Energy Renaissance and Orkestra. And hopefully that kickstarts your journey into the space of batteries. So I'm going to kick it off. I want to make sure that we start properly. We start by acknowledging the country and the land that we're on. So Energy Renaissance respectfully acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, traditional owners, and the custodians of the land on which it works and operates, and pays its respects to elders past, present, and future. From Millers Point, which is where our sales office is located, that's the Cadigal territory. And for Tomago, which is where our factory is located in Newcastle, that's the Worimi Nation. Well, what is today about? Today is about announcing the fact that after a bit of hard work from both teams, Energy Renaissance has joined Orkestra's software simulation platform. The reason why we did this was because we firmly believe in what Orkestra is trying to do and trying to achieve, and our missions and visions, our values align. And we're really proud to be part of Orkestra's platform of solutions that they offer their customers. And so today's webinar, there's going to be a couple of people on it. It's me, myself, Pratik, and Jake, Enterprise Success Manager at Orkestra. We were going to have Christian join us from the factory while I was going to be in the other office, but he decided to have a wedding anniversary today, which I totally forgot about. So he's prioritizing the right things, I think. Why are we here? Well, I don't know about you, but over the last 10 years, I've noticed a lot of changes in the electricity market, both political and regulatory. But most importantly, to the bottom line, we've seen incredible volatile energy prices impact everybody, not just small home residential customers, but large industrial customers as well, and small commercial businesses as well. And some have observed over 300% increases in energy costs. Now, if energy costs were 30 to 20% of someone's business, all of a sudden, cost increases like that are incredibly destructive to anybody's business, let alone what size you are. So the magnitude of the changes are pretty serious. For those that have already invested in solar over the last decade, their feed-in tariffs have completely been eroded. So the business cases that they invested into solar with originally have completely shifted on them without them doing anything different or without the quality of the investments that they'd made change. And then finally, what's happened, and we've been talking about this for the last 10 years, when solar penetration increases, wholesale spot price markets will reflect this change. And what have we seen? We've seen daytime wholesale prices drop to zero or negative in some states. And this is a trend that's only going to continue occurring as we continue to flood the national electricity market with rooftop solar. So we think with all of those things happening in the background, there is no better time to take control of the energy market with Energy Renaissance batteries. But it's no point talking about these things. You got to know how and what you're going to do to actually take control. So from Energy Renaissance perspective, we're trying to keep things simple for our customers. We offer indoor solutions and outdoor solutions. And I'm not just going to talk about them. I'm actually going to show you them because I happen to be in the factory today. And so I'm just going to switch over really quickly. I want to try and keep things quick because I've got a lot to cover with Jake in the background. And I'm just going to do this.
Here.
But yeah, wanted to show you the real thing. Instead of just talking about it to pretty slides, here's the real thing. This right here, the indoor rack, comes either with an inverter or without one. And you would have seen it already, the white box behind me, that, the outdoor enclosure, also with an inverter or without an inverter, to maximize people's choices, but create a standard product footprint for people to join into. Sorry about the unsmooth transitions, but I really wanted to show you what it was all about. But enough of me talking, enough of our products. I really want to talk to you about Jake and Orkestra. So over to you, Jake.
Thank you so much, Pratik. Thank you. Let me try and take control here of the slides. So thanks so much for having me, guys. I think here at Orkestra, we're pretty excited to be working with another Australian manufacturer. It's obviously great seeing products being made here in Australia, scaling up to the level that you guys are doing as well. Because whilst everyone is all obviously trying to race to the bottom, I think there's quite a lot of customers that are still trying to buy Australian-made products and trying to encourage that. So very similar to Energy Renaissance, Orkestra is an Australian-owned company, founded in 2022 by three fellas called James Alston, Chris Cooper, and Michael Jurosevich. So originally they designed Orkestra as their own kind of internal software to model their own projects prior to developing it into kind of a standalone software platform that we could basically sell to the masses and try and accelerate the program here in Australia. So yeah, it's lovely working with Energy Renaissance because, as I said, we're an Australian manufacturer. Trying to align those interests is obviously great for everyone here in Australia. So I think the main question that you want to ask and what we keep bringing up is why are we here, right? Why is Energy Renaissance here and why is Orkestra here? And to me, one of the easiest ways to explain it is citing a report from Bloomberg New Energy Reports in 2021. Often James Alston talks about this, and I think it's incredibly important to actually address these numbers and just realize the challenges that we have moving ahead, right? So the New Energy Bloomberg report in 2021 compared to 2020 stated that we need to install 5 times as much wind, 3 times as much solar, and 26 times as much storage as what was installed in 2020 every single year up until 2030. The fact is we need to get more feasibility reports out to more customers. We need to get more cash flow positive feasibility reports out to these customers which have an ROI less than 10 years and then try and encourage the adoption of solar and storage here in Australia. The current software models that have been out for previous years are not entirely scalable. You would generally need to be a full-time analyst or a full-time consultant to actually be able to run these quite complex business models. And so Orkestra set out on a pathway to try and make it much easier, much more scalable for these solar energy and EPCs and installers to actually upscale into the LGC sector and actually start selling these commercial projects. And so essentially we want to simplify the access to analytic tools, sales processes, sales proposals, and enable small 3, 4, 5, 10-man bands of installers to actually start selling 100, 200, 300, 500, 1 megawatt and things like that as well. Because as you know, in previous software, it's always been quite difficult to model FCAS, wholesale arbitrage, VPPs, and all sorts of different things like that. So that was essentially the mission statement of Orkestra. How do we get more reports out to customers? What pathway do we head down to make it more achievable and just rapid deployment of upscaling batteries into the market as well? So that's why we really like working with companies like Energy Renaissance, because you guys have the same goal as us. You have 2-hour batteries, you have 4-hour batteries, and potentially is there a software available that we can test everything all at once and have something determine what the best system is for that particular client and things like that as well. So the majority of our customers are installers, EPCs, energy retailers, brokers, consultants, battery manufacturers like yourself. So where you want to model projects, where you want to see if there's a feasible practice here, and essentially accelerate that from 2 hours time in saddle of running a feasibility report to actually being able to run hundreds of simulations within about 15, 20, 25 minutes, and really qualify your customer based on a feasibility analysis first prior to engaging engineering. We want to discuss every possible outcome for this particular client and what these situations kind of look like based on in front of the meter revenue, based on behind the meter, based on an aggressive tariff increase, potentially year 3, and things like that as well. So maybe I just jump into a bit of a demo and show you what we can do. But prior to doing that, here are some of our customers at the moment where you'll see Energy Renaissance as well. So some of the larger players here in Australia have already adopted Orkestra, which is great. I think we're already around 70 to 75 companies here in Australia, predominantly on the eastern seaboard. We are now starting to break into New Zealand and also a customer in Japan as well. So we are starting to go for international growth. But essentially, the reason why it's great for Australian companies is because Orkestra is specifically designed for our energy market. Okay, we're not using a software from the UK. We're not using a software from the US. We're literally using an Australian software designed for our demand tariffs, our load profiles, and things like that as well. So let me jump into a bit of a demonstration. But prior to doing that, some of the things on how we've made it easier for companies to scale up as well, because I've even been a part of companies where I ran my own feasibility reports, and it was great for me to do that because if I was running my own feasibility reports, I knew exactly why we were going in with this particular system, right? When you have other people running your system analysis for you, you tend to have to trust that they've chosen the correct system for you. And when I was going into pitch that system, I need to know exactly why I've chosen that system and what happens when we go bigger, what happens when we go smaller. So the main features of Orkestra, I wish I had this tool available when I was selling solar and batteries in my time, because I used to use it. I'm not going to mention the other software programs, but generally, and I'm sure most of our customers will understand this, that to run your first feasibility report generally takes about 60 minutes. And your second feasibility report takes about 30 minutes, and then potentially to run your third feasibility report takes about 20 minutes. So we're roughly spending about 2 hours in the saddle to try and make 3 feasibility reports. Now, what Orkestra has done, and I don't know how they did this, but I love that they did it, is you can simulate 250 systems at a time. So instead of testing one system, we're going to put an entire range with 25 kilowatt increments and simulate 250 systems at a time.
That's
and
huge.
determine what the best system is. So
having a platform that allows you to do that, that's huge, because you're really giving the decision-making entity all of the information they need to make a decision right there. And that is such a critical point. I think this is probably a good point in time to switch to how you actually do that.
Definitely.
So did you have
into it?
Yeah.
Let's jump into it. And I think it's important to understand that when it takes 2 hours to run a feasibility report, you can't help but take your previous assumptions about what you have sold into the next client, assuming you know what's best for him and what his driving factor is. And what Orkestra can demonstrate is across those 250 systems, just by choosing different driving factors, whether it's rate of return, NPV, or energy independence, completely changes the ranking of what system is best and worst. Yeah. And I'm sure plenty of our customers and plenty of the people in webinars have recommended potentially a 300 kilowatt system with 10% export, but the customer ended up going with a 100 kilowatt system because it had a better ROI, and the other company was able to inform them that, hey, this actually pays itself off quicker. So I'm going to run through 2 projects. I'll run through a site where we have no solar on it. So it's a brand new site. We want to investigate solar and batteries. And then after that, I'm going to run through a project where, imagine we're returning to a site that already has 300 kilowatts on, and we want to investigate if any batteries are going to be feasible for that particular customer. Awesome. So when we're doing a manufacturing site, we have a site baseline. We're basically just setting up the site exactly as it is. So we've got the meter number, you'll have the net load as well, retail tariffs, and then network tariffs as well. So as I mentioned earlier, you just type in the network tariff code, and we have all of the network tariffs here in Australia. Well, not all of them, but about 90 to 95% of them for the C&I sector. Now, when we're modeling systems as well, as I said, instead of testing one system at a time, I'm going to put in a range of systems from 100 kilowatts all the way to 450 in 25 kilowatt increments. So that makes up 15 solar systems. I've then added 13 batteries. And obviously for the test of this purpose, I'm going to model all of the Energy Renaissance batteries, scaling from 122 kilowatts all the way up to 976 kilowatts. And in the same simulation, we're going to test the 2-hour batteries versus the 4-hour batteries as well. So I don't need to do multiple simulations. I can basically just test all in the same go. And then as you see here, this is how the output comes out. It's actually ranked those 195 systems based on the different driving factor on the left. And as I was mentioning before about taking about what your assumptions is, what your assumptions are best, what's best for your client, allowing your customer to actually tell you specifically what he's looking for. And just by choosing these different driving factors on the left, 3 very common driving factors that we see is rate of return, NPV, and energy independence. And as you can see here, I've saved the best system on all of those different driving factors and just how drastically the ranking changes amongst those systems based on best to worst. And this is an exact point of being able to do a wide range of studies and just allowing the customer to tell you exactly what he's looking for. Are they looking for a quick rate of return, or are they looking for the best savings over the lifespan of that system? So that's how we would do it for a brand new site that has no solar. And for a site that has existing solar, we can actually build the solar system into their existing site base load. And so moving forward, I can then investigate, again, another 200 systems. Do we want to investigate adding more solar and batteries? And something that I didn't mention before, but the speed in which we can do these analyses, I can do 200 system analysis on in front of the meter revenue, including, wholesale arbitrage and contingency FCAS. Well, what happens if we don't have the ability to export? What happens if we don't have the ability to participate in front of the meter revenue? Well, okay, here's 200 system analysis based on no availability to in front of the meter revenue.
I think that's really important. I'm going to pause you there for 2 seconds. I think that is really important to emphasize. One of the biggest reasons we wanted to join your platform was we understood the complexity of decisions that people had to make, and then the different versions of which those decisions came up in. So it was so important that people needed to be able to do all of the financial analysis on every single version of the revenue stack. So whether it's in front of the meter revenue, whether it's behind the meter, or whether it's just optimization of the existing system solar system that's there. And so being able to run 200 simulations on each of those scenarios, and then being able to kind of rank them and then export them out into some format, that's taking weeks and weeks and weeks of work and empowering a customer to make a decision faster. And that's what it's a race for me. It's a total race, and this is really awesome.
Yeah, and essentially gone are the days where you're now going to your customer with 2 static PDF quotes, because ideally what we can do within about 30 minutes, we can basically show our customer and get out in front of them and say, we've actually simulated over 700 systems, 250 with in front of the meter, 250 with behind the meter, and then 250 potentially if I don't have a forecast on what your energy rates are doing. Well, how does it look if we actually simulated a 20% increase in year 2 potentially? And how does that change the conversation based on what's best for the customer? So the time spent doing analysis has drastically changed. The game has changed quite a lot. And that's why we generally feel that we can now use this as a sales tool. So I'll jump into the analysis, but here's another perfect example where I've actually tested all of the Energy Renaissance batteries at once, all the way up to 976 kilowatts against this load profile, against this solar system. And it has told me that there's 4 out of the 14 that were feasible, but the 244 is the most feasible with a 6.4-year ROI, so on and so forth, and things like that. And so in the same study, I can just test everything of Energy Renaissance, and Orkestra just tells me, hey, this is the best battery, for these particular reasons, this is how it looks. So when we actually go to an analysis, so as I mentioned earlier, every single one of these bars has its own feasibility report. And as you just mentioned earlier, it would probably take me about 3 weeks to actually simulate 195 different systems, right? So you can sit in front of your customer and he might have some adjustments based on what their tariff is. Maybe they're changing their energy consumption a little bit, and you can simulate it right in front of him and then open up the results. Now, this is what I think is one of the coolest things about Orkestra is we have these feasibility reports on the website, and we can actually create a shareable link like such. And I can post this into the group later so that everyone watching the video can actually see how these reports look. But the CFO or the end customer that I'm sending this to has the exact same interaction that I have now. He can check out where the energy is going, look at the before, look at the after, and just go through all the different intervals and things like that. But quite intuitively, we've then got the different revenue streams and things like that as well. But again, the last thing I'll just finish on is cash flow. We've got a battery replacement in there. And then right here, bill calculations. This has always been something which has been incredibly hard to provide to customers. And, we've all had customers where you can provide every graph under the sun, and then they'll say to you, what does my bill look like at the end of it?
Yeah.
And I've never been able to actually provide a before and after bill. So, as simple as this is, I think this is a really, really cool feature, because this is quite a recognizable thing, especially for a lot of farmers and things like that. They don't care about their graphs. They just want to see, where am I going to be sitting financially after this system? So there's a lot here. Really want to encourage people to jump in and have a 3-week trial. Everyone is welcome to model as many systems as they can in those 3 weeks. There is support available as well, so I can actually jump in and assist you with your products during those 3 weeks. We really want to drive the uptake of storage here in Australia. We really want to try and accelerate that through easier access to modeling and things like that as well. And we think we're on a pretty good pathway here with the way that we've gone. So a lot
That's
more
really
updates to
great.
come.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't want to spoil too many other features that you're going to be releasing, because we've been talking a lot over the last couple of months, and there's a big roadmap of features that you're going to be releasing. So I'm not going to steal your thunder. We're really, the other reason we're really interested in this is because it really allows us to show what our EMS is capable of doing, and how important it is for battery suppliers to bring an energy management system to the table to help customers actually achieve these outcomes. So we're super, super excited that you've made the process for customers so simple, and to give them the power to give so much information and distill it down to 2 or 3 things, so that financial decision makers and management and executive decision makers can actually make a decision. And that's, that is such an important piece of work that you're helping to enable. So yeah, for everyone that's on the webinar, I'm conscious of time. It's 12:20. I wanted this to be a 20-minute webinar with a bunch of Q&A. It doesn't actually look like there's too many Q&As right now. I'm just going to quickly go through this. There are some pretty interesting questions that are pointed at Orkestra. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that at the end we'll take these down, and we'll make sure that Orkestra provides a clear and distinct response to each of them, irrespective of whether they're about our batteries or not. Here is a QR code that you guys can scan that allows you to get a free 3-week trial with Orkestra's amazing platform. And if you guys have any questions for us, or if you don't want to miss out on the next webinar that we're going to be doing, we're going to continue to do these webinars because we want to inform people. We want to build the knowledge base within our community of installers, energy companies, retailers, distributors, DNSPs, wholesalers, because it is a race, and we need to be putting in far more batteries than we are right now. And the only way we can do that is by simplifying the decision-making process and giving people the right information in a clear and concise manner. So if you don't want to miss out on the next few webinars, click on the link below. You can just click on it directly, actually. So your window should allow you to actually click on it and go straight to Internet Explorer or Google Chrome, depending on whichever computer you're on. And don't forget to click on Orkestra's little QR code there. That'll give you access to a 3-week trial with all of this and more. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending today. Really appreciate it. This is just the first of many. Have a lovely Friday, a safe weekend, especially down those who are in Victoria right now. Stay safe, and look forward to the next one. Thanks, Jake. Thanks. Really appreciate for you coming on today.
Thanks for having me. Really, really enjoyed it. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.